This is honestly one of the most important lessons in maintaining your space. Hi YouTube friends, welcome to my channel where I upload weekly videos on simplicity and joyful living. If this is your first time here, my name is Helen. I am a KonMari Master Consultant and trained professional organizer. I love to explore different aspects of the KonMari Method philosophy, sharing tips on decluttering and organizing, and how to simplify to live more joyfully and intentionally. If that sounds good to you, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and come spark joy with me. In today's video, I want to share 5 lessons I learned from the KonMari Method. These are the lessons that I think will benefit anyone that is watching. In my previous video, I've shared my journey going from a stressed and disorganized mom to a certified KonMari consultant. And if you haven't seen that video, I will link it above. Reading Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, and using her method to transform my own living space has truly changed every single aspect of my life, and I couldn't be more grateful. The KonMari Method is not just about organizing and folding your clothes so that you'll stand up on its own. It's a way of life. I was inspired to make this video and I started making a list of the lessons I've learned, and immediately I had a really long list. I decided to start with 5 so I can get into each lesson a little bit more deeply, and so that this video is not over an hour long. So this video will likely be part 1 of many more to come. So let's get started. The first lesson the KonMari Method has taught me is don't keep an item just because. Only keep the items that support you to live your ideal life. To be honest, before the KonMari Method, I have never thought about what is my ideal life, what is the life that's going to bring me the most joy. And I think the reason why it's so important to do this, it's kind of like if you were packing for a trip and you don't know where you're going or what you're going to be doing, you're going to be bringing a lot more items. And I think life is like that too. If you're not living intentionally, you're going to end up keeping a lot more items. So by taking this time to really think about what is the life that's going to bring me the most joy, what is the environment I want to create for myself, what do I want to do with my time when I'm done tidying up, having those in mind before I got started really helped me throughout the process and helped me to live more intentionally. So it's not even just the question of is this item useful, is that how is it contributing to my ideal life and do I even need it in the first place? I think that is a really important lesson for everyone, because sometimes we just keep an item because we've always had it, but that is not good enough of a reason. We all have a limited amount of space at home, and our home is not a storage space. Before I started my tidying journey, I had already downsized my home and moved across the country. So I honestly thought I was living pretty minimally compared to how I was before. However, when I started looking at what I have at home and start thinking about my ideal life, I realized I still had way more than I needed. When I was reading Marie's book and I realized I never actually consider what I want my home to feel like, what I want my environment to do for me, what I actually want to do with my time, that's when the real change happened, because I was able to let go of so many items that have already served their purpose or they no longer have a purpose in my life. Marie Kondo said, the question of what you want to own is actually the question of how you want to live your life. This is why it's so important to think about your ideal life and only keeping the items that will support you to live that life. And because this is the most important step that a lot of people skipped, I have actually created a free download on my website. It's an 8-page guide called the Tidying Festival Planning Guide, and it's to help you define your ideal life. And this is a tool that I use with all of my clients, and I know it will bring so much value to you if you are doing a tidying festival, whether it's on your own or with me. So if you're interested, definitely check it out at helenyan.com/newsletter. The second lesson the KonMari Method has taught me is that everything that comes into your life has a purpose, but it may not be what you think it is. So this is a funny one, and I think it's really important to think about this while you are in the decluttering process, because the process of decluttering can sometimes feel really negative because you're looking at all the items that you spent money on and maybe it didn't work out, and then you feel bad about it, you feel like you wasted money, then somehow you justify to yourself you need to hang on to this item to almost prove to yourself that you didn't make this bad purchase, and you need to give this item a second chance so that you don't feel like you wasted all that money. I think realizing this really was able to help me focus on what really sparked joy for me and let go of the items that no longer served its purpose. When I went through my tidying festival, I learned a lot about myself. When you're looking at clothing, for example, maybe the purpose of that item is to teach you that you didn't like a specific color, a specific material, or maybe you didn't like a specific fit. So when you are shopping next time, having this awareness really helps you not to make the same mistake twice. When we buy new clothes, we of course want everything to work out. However, not every single piece of clothing that comes into your life is meant for you to wear to threadbare. When you're having a hard time letting go of something, you can think about the purpose of that item, because maybe that item is to teach you that you don't like the color red, or that you don't like to wear wool, or that you don't like things that are too fitted. So it wasn't like you wasted all that money. In fact, you learned a really valuable lesson because you won't waste that money again. The third lesson the KonMari Method taught me is use the items while they mean something to you. Don't save the items for a special day. When I was going through my tidying festival, I saw so many collections from my childhood that I never got to use. So I saw stickers that I didn't use, I saw notebooks that I never wrote in, I saw beautiful pens and stationery items that I never even opened because they were so nice and I wanted to save them for a special occasion. That special occasion never came, and I should have just used them while those items sparked joy and meant something to me, rather than keeping it until I'd forgotten about it and I end up just letting it go because I no longer had those feelings about those items. So I learned that it's so important that if you actually have something you love, you should use it instead of saving it. Because if you save it, not only did you not get to enjoy this item while you have it, you might even forget about having this item in the first place, and then one day finding it all dusty and you wonder, what is this thing? Oh yeah, this was a favorite pair of shoes that I was saving for a special occasion, but it no longer is the style that I love. So it's such a waste. So use your items while they still spark joy to you, and this can be applied to so many different things. If you received a hand cream that you love, don't save it. Use it before it expires. If you buy a favorite dress, wear it at every opportunity you get. If you have special dinnerware, use them for your dinner every day. If not now, when? The fourth lesson the KonMari Method taught me is every item in your home must have a home within your home. This is honestly one of the most important lessons in terms of maintaining your space after a tidying festival. There's a saying that clutter is just delayed decision, and it's so true. I find that clutter only happens when something comes into your home and you're not sure where to put it, so you kind of put it on the table or on a shelf temporarily, then all of a sudden that just like lives there, then the next item kind of just live on top of it because clutter somehow attracts clutter. When you actually take the time to choose a home within your home for every single item that comes into your space, what happens is when you are tidying up, even if certain things are out of place, all you're doing is putting that item back into its home. And that becomes really automatic, and really quickly everyone in the family can help because everyone knows that item can only go to one place. When things don't have a home within your home and you're trying to tidy up, what you're doing is you're trying to make room for that item as you're tidying up. And that can be pretty stressful because you're like, well, in order for me to put this thing on the shelf, I will have to move the other thing. Now I have to find another home for the other thing, and then so on. And then it ends up being this endless thing. And I realized when I was reading Marie's book that if every single item you keep has a home, then that's it. You just make that decision once and you're good. And honestly, it couldn't get more simple than that. So we apply this lesson to every single new item we bring into our home as well. In fact, when we're at the store, if there's an item that's a little bit larger, we ask ourselves, where is this item going to go when we bring it home? And sometimes we can't think of a place, or we're not willing to let go of another item that's currently in that place, so we end up not buying this new item, and then we forget about it. The fifth lesson the KonMari Method taught me is that if you hang on to an item that no longer sparks joy for you, it's actually more of a waste for that item to sit in your home unused and unloved than to let it go to someone who will use it and love it. When I was going through my own tidying festival, I went through every single item in my home. And of course, I came across many items that were perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but for some reason, I just don't use it or I just don't like it. When I was letting go of the items that no longer sparked joy for me, many of the items I just donated to a local charity. However, there were certain items that I had a harder time than others to let go of, and they were items that I spent more money on, such as designer bags and shoes and even designer cookware. So I decided to sell some of those items that I know would be easy to sell. There was one item I remember vividly, and it was an orange Michael Kors handbag. I absolutely loved that handbag, and I used it for several years until it no longer sparked joy for me. I remember coming across that bag when I found it in my tidying festival, and I briefly thought about keeping it, but I knew I wasn't going to use that bag because I had already stopped using that bag and I haven't thought about that bag in a long time. So I listed the bag on Kijiji, and immediately this lady messaged me asking me if she could buy it. And when this lady came to pick it up, she was so happy. The amount of joy I saw in her face when she was holding that bag in her hand, she was just so happy to have this bag. And I knew I made the right decision selling it because how I felt about that bag was nowhere near this amount of joy that this bag is now bringing this other lady. And it didn't even matter how much I was selling it for. I was just so happy that it was going into a home where I know that bag will be loved and treasured. All of these items can serve a purpose, maybe not in my life, but in somebody else's life. So even things like socks that no longer spark joy for you, it can keep somebody else warm. A toy that your child no longer plays with, somebody else would really love and appreciate that toy. And sometimes I know people hang on to furniture just in case they might need it one day. By hanging on to that furniture, if you don't need it, it's especially wasteful because there's a lot of people who are starting out, there's a lot of people who are moving into their first place or who are going through a hard time that would absolutely love that furniture. So those are the 5 lessons the KonMari Method has taught me. Honestly, this method is so life-changing for me. I'm so grateful to have found Marie's book and to do this transformation and ended up becoming a KonMari consultant myself. If you're still here, I would love for you to comment below what is your biggest takeaway from the lessons that I shared. Until next time, choose joy, live well.